Morning, everybody. Thanks for joining. Just getting some things set up here, so just give me about 1 minute, and we'll get going. Today, I want to. Dave is gone. He's on holidays, and Dave would normally be in trading the S&P markets and gold. I'll definitely have a quick peek at those, but I believe for today, I'm going to clean up this chart here. But I believe for today, I want to actually have a look at crude oil numbers, which are coming out here in about 20 minutes. And I haven't talked about crude oil markets here for a little while. I certainly haven't done a live session on it for a while, other than just a brief look at them here and there. And so I wanted to take a little bit of time and go through it, check out a couple of levels, and explain to you my opinion about what crude oil is doing and where it's headed in the near-term future and where it could be going long-term. So I'm not going to make this very long. I am going to end this here in about a half an hour after numbers release. I'm going to end it. So I'll be on for about the next 45 minutes, 50 minutes total. It's actually my wife's birthday today, and I'm going to be leaving the office early and spending some time with her and the family, and taking a bit of a day just to enjoy their time. So don't want to make this a long drawn-out session, but I'm going to get started, like I say, in give me about 30 seconds here, guys. I'm just finishing reading reading a news release here on something else here. So if you could give me about 30 more seconds, I'm just going to finish this, and then we're going to get going. Okay, let's get rolling here. So I'm just going to start out real quick by discussing the U.S. dollar index. As you can see, we're still rebounding here in this chop, straight sideways trading here for about 3 months now. We're into this, and still no sign of it breaking out. I was hopeful on this nice little run up in here that we had got, but unfortunately it was not to be. We had a bit of a rejection today, and really all price did today was come in and take out the body highs of this last push, which capped the last high daily range in here on March in June 21st. So far rejected, and I'm looking here for price to stabilize somewhere in and about I would say this area right in here. We should see price start to normalize, find some support, and then hopefully we'll look for a rebound, and that could be the next push. I would like to say that they are going to start trading out of this range here fairly soon. But the fact of reality is that it's summer months, okay? And yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on politically and you know, with monetary supplies and interest rates and bonds and yields and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. However, a lot of the big money, you got to think about this, they're on summer holidays. They're taking some time off, and you know, the old adage of sell in May and go away in the stock market, you know, it definitely would apply in some cases with forex and you know, indices and certainly commodity markets as well too. But we may not see, what I'm driving at is, we may not see price break out of this range for the next foreseeable time, and I'm talking maybe about the next 4 weeks, 4 to 6 weeks, until the end of summer, and then from there we could eventually see. My bias on the US dollar is to the upside. I think we're going to be going higher on it, and I think the next range, if you see this consolidation range in here, I believe these areas will be the next to get tagged. And then from there, it's just going to keep on going higher and higher. Whether or not it gets above these highs here, we'll probably know that closer to the end of the year. But for now, I am bullish on the US dollar with a short-term neutral stance, because I do believe we could see continuation into this extended consolidation. So, you know, I wouldn't necessarily get too excited about this thing pushing above 95 and, you know, and ripping through the old levels here and starting to challenge 96. If it does that, it may just go up, wick through it, and just to come back down, grab stops, and then, you know, continue to reside down in this area here. Now, if it does push through, you know, and I'm wrong, great. I mean, you know, my bias is still to the upside. I think we're still, you know, we are still going to run higher, but I think, you know, like I say, I think it may not do it here right away. So, anyways, with that being said, yeah, about 94.80, I'm kind of looking for some sort of level of support to kick in. If we do run through this small consolidation level in here, then I would expect price to be running all the way back down to 94.30 levels. There and abouts. Maybe not quite 94.30. It may hold off about 94.35. But basically just a return back to this consolidation level would be the area if we do indeed break through this 94.80 level. So keep those on your charts, watch those. We are coming into Thursday, so what the weekly profile, what we could be looking at here is we could see, where are we? So we could see something like this pan out, where we get a weekly profile that, you know, again, this is even right back here, retesting the open of Monday. Monday's open in here. We could see a bounce in there as well too, if we lose this 94.80 level. And then we could see something like this come in for Thursday, and then again, I would imagine after Thursday we'd probably taper off and maybe finish somewhere in and around here. So that could be what the weekly profile is going to be set out to capture. I'm definitely on the you know, upside bias for sure, but we'll just have to see. I'm not expecting fireworks or anything, because again, we are in the summer months here. So, and you can see what price has been doing for the past little while. It's not very exciting. So anyway, that's the US dollar. Euro USD, same thing as the US dollar. We're just sort of trapped in this let me just get rid of some of this stuff on the chart here and clean these levels up here for you guys so you can see a little bit better. So you can see its price is almost emitting sort of a head and shoulders pattern here, and if we do see decline, bullish activity in the US dollar, we should see this the Euro USD start to fall off, and these levels down in here would be the target initially. So you know, and that's a few hundred pips away. So again, we may not see these levels down here until after summer, but that's where my eyes are going in terms of market bias for the Euro USD. And today we had a bit of We had a bit of a nice expansion, and I was actually hoping that the sorry guys, my air conditioner just kicked in, if you can hear that noise in the background. We actually had price in the Asian range create a fairly tight range in here, and I was looking for a run higher up to the 116.80 level. I wanted price to kind of do this here. We didn't get it, unfortunately. Price just rolled over after Asia into the London Open session, and it dropped about 40 pips or so. Where were we here? 50 pips, I believe it dropped. Just taking out the old lows here, and so far we're rejecting. So I would expect, again, some sort of level of resistance in here. If this gives way, then I'll be looking at that 116.80 level again to provide some sort of resistance. So I'm just going to move through the cable real quick, which it obviously came down. It actually hit a target. So this was the area I was looking at on London Open. as a sell area, and this was our stop, and I said this would be a nice target. As you can see, price came in and pushed through that nicely on Tuesday, and then Wednesday it's trading. We've had a nice continuation to the downside for another 100 pip, 80, was it 80 pips today? No, it was about 100 pip run, pretty much bang on. So again, if we see continuation to the upside with the dollar, we should see this continue to run. But just keep in mind here, I want to show you something. As you can see here, price just took out these old lows here from back in October of last year, so hit a major milestone, and waiting for those levels actually for quite a while to get hit. So I was calling those levels when price was trading all the way back up in here, that those were my targets. First one here, it took that out nicely on this push down, and then the second drive lower finally took out those lows here just today. So hit a major milestone. We will be looking for lower prices again to continue on the pound sterling, but for now I wouldn't be surprised if they started to cool their jets a little bit and we started to see the market retrace a little bit on the pound dollar. So just keep that in mind. If you are a pound trader, there could be some upside to be seen here short term, as this was taken out today and the liquidity has been ran. Now, I mean, it could just keep on pushing straight lower from here. There's definitely no reason why it can't. I'm just saying that in terms of for algorithm trading completion, it definitely hit some fairly significant levels today. So just bear that in mind, guys. And Euro GBP finally pushing out of this range in here. I'm not going to talk about this too much today, just because we have been in this extended consolidation period in here, and it's really, as they're chopping this sideways, they're just manipulating the euro and the pound is really all they're doing anyway. So it's a bit more harder to grab your bias from this pair by chopping sideways here. But as we do start to run higher on this pair, it should drop the pound, you'd think. But if it's just poking its head up here to run back into the range, then we will probably see the euro finally get manipulated, and we'll see this continue down, is what I'm predicting. So anyway, that is those are the main guys that I want to discuss for Forex, and I'm going to jump into the crude oil market here. That's US CAD. There we go. Crude oil market. And just discuss some levels here that I was going through earlier in the week. I was expecting Monday's drop in here to come back and retest these old lows here on Tuesday, and hopefully we'd be seeing price continue to roll over. We didn't get that. It just went straight sideways. Period of chop. They were actually pretty much grabbing liquidity above and below the markets here. And really didn't go anywhere yesterday, and so far today it's the same, waiting for these crude oil inventory numbers. I believe we're going to see a push to the downside. I think this 66.30 level could get hit. Yes, we definitely hit a fairly significant level right here. However, I'm just looking at the price action, and we didn't see an immediate big, price came down, it wicked down. You can see here on Tuesday. It did reject, but then we've been slowly trading softer down there as well, again. So I don't think we're going to see any upside on crude oil yet. Here, let me get rid of some of these levels just to kind of clean this up on the daily a bit for you guys. I think there's further downside on crude. There's a lot of stuff going on, and that was one of the articles that I was just reading. There was just some updates on what China was doing. It appears that they are going to, so the U.S. came in back in May, and they slapped a bunch of additional sanctions onto Iran, and trying to limit their crude oil exports and get them down to zero. However, Iran has been selling their oil to China, and China is a massive importer of crude oil, and so they've been buying Iranian oil. And I think with these trade wars with the U.S., it's just going to push China into buying more and more Iran crude oil, which means the market is going to see additional supply sitting there because China won't be paying. Now, we're in a fairly major area of support here. I would expect on any normal day that this area in here would be support, and we shouldn't see price roll through this. Maybe a brief touchdown to the 66.30 level, and that could certainly happen. Crude oil is heavily manipulated. I mean, if you look at this, here's a nice little trend line here for you. Saw a nice bounce. We could see it again. That's kind of why I like the 66.30 level, but I think that we could really see the prices go lower. May not do it today, but if you look, OPEC has increased production. Again, the U.S. is putting sanctions on Iran, and they're trying to curb their exports. China is going to be a massive buyer of them. The news article I was just reading here was saying that they are going to start increasing those purchases from Iran. Iran's going to step up production. Russia wants to come in, and they want to see oil prices hover in and around and staying around the $60. OPEC, I believe, they want to see higher prices. U.S. wants to see higher crude prices. So, I mean, there's definitely a number of forces that are sort of butting heads right now on the price of oil. And it's kind of getting stuck in the middle right now. So far, it's really been trading sideways in this range right in here for about the past 3 months. So, I mean, long term, I'm bullish oil. I think there's a lot of room to go higher on oil. But in the short term, the immediate, for the next couple of months anyway, we could see market prices start to falter a little bit, and it may not go anywhere. It could just sit sideways in these 60 levels here. So just keep that in mind. If you are an oil trader, we could see further depression. So don't be too quick to throw your longs on yet. So numbers release is coming out here fairly in about 2 minutes. So what I'm actually expecting, I'd like to see them come up and run these highs in here. And then if they keep pushing up through this level here and this level right in here, so I had the price tag on there. I'll just run that over there real quick. So 69.80 and 69.30. I'll just leave it about 30, somewhere in and around there. That, I believe, should form some level of resistance on the upside. So if, if price does spike higher, I would be looking at these areas in here for price to level out. And I definitely think they're coming above here. These are just too perfect, these equal highs in here. They didn't run any stops. I was actually expecting them to do this on Tuesday. They left those intact. They took the areas lower, but I'd like to see them come up. Even just a real brief wick. Wicks up right into here, grabs the liquidity above, runs into the resistance into this area here, and then I think we could continue to the downside from there. So what would negate that is if these levels got broken, then I would expect them to probably then try to come up and recapitalize the areas above here for the end of the week. So if that's the case, if it does break there, we'll just look for a simple break and retest. We can get long, and we can certainly trade these markets. It's not that they're untradeable. It's just that I think we're some of the old traditional levels of support and resistance, I don't believe are going to hold out with the current action on crude. Okay, so here we go. Numbers are being released. Let's see what they do here. So far, taking some of the liquidity to the downside. Just grabbed the low here by about a pip. So we'll see what they want to do here with this. Again, I'd like to see them push higher. I want to see them take this area above here. There's a lot of liquidity above this. So if they do not take this area, then that's going to be highly suspect that this run lower here could be very, very temporary, and they'll come back for those a little later on, and that's a heavy bias to the downside, which means these lows here and this low here could get taken out if they leave those. so far fairly uneventful. This is the 15-minute I just dropped down to, just to kind of give you an idea. Yeah, crude is definitely one of those markets where you need to be on top of things in terms of news events and fundamentally speaking, not so much forex and in commodities. Yeah, commodities to a point. I mean, if there's a massive drought or flood or something like that that affects crops, then yeah, obviously you got to be aware of that. But crude oil is definitely one of those things that really gets pushed around by some of the news releases that come out. Like for example, and this was a huge huge manipulation in my opinion. So all of the this was I was saying once price ran up into here, and we started to see a bit of a decline, that I wanted to wait for the OPEC meeting back in towards the end of June to come out before I picked my opinion on where I thought crude oil was going to go. They came out and said, yeah, we're going to allow for some marginal inventory or increases in production to happen. That technically should be driving price lower. But then the very same day that they came out, they came in and said that there was a huge Syncrude, their operating facility in Canada, was experiencing an outage, and that's when you saw this massive push to the upside by about, what was this, a $6 move, from 64 to 75. So sorry, a $11 move, and so it's just. Things like that are get to be a little bit ridiculous with this market sometimes. It's a little bit frustrating because you know that they're coming out and they're pushing more inventory on the market, and yet the prices start to go up, right? So I mean it's very counterintuitive to trading sometimes. You can't necessarily trade on just price alone, in my opinion, on crude oil alone. So like this area in here, it should be offering some massive area of support, and we should see prices rebound and start to run higher immediately. However, what are they doing? They're coming here and they're kind of meandering it sideways, and they're taking liquidity lower. So it's kind of one of those things. But anyway, so far fairly lackluster crude oil inventory numbers here. I don't see a whole lot of action. I would have liked to, so if price wanted to quickly run up to here, I would have got a short position on, and I would have flipped over to my demo account, and I would have gone over to my crude oil numbers here, and I would have put in a market order for price to come in and reject off of this level, more than likely right in here. Sorry guys, if I did a quick switch there. This is my demo account that I trade on for all of my live sessions, and I would have looked for this to basically happen, and would have got short, and I would have rolled it down to, where are we, 60, sorry, that was on the daily, 66.30, so about $1.30 lower, I think is where this thing's going to be heading. But I want to see it come up and grab this here. I want to see price slam into here, reject, and come all the way back down. And then, we'll get a nice $3 movement on that. So that would definitely be something I'd be looking at. But so far, we got to wait. It's not really doing much of anything right now. So, unfortunately, I'm going to watch this here with you guys for about another 10 minutes. And then I am going to retreat for the day. As I say, I want to spend some time there with the family, as it is summer, and actually my son's birthday and whoops, didn't mean to do that. My son's birthday and my wife's birthday are actually 4 days apart. His was just on the weekend here, and so we spent a lot of time together on the weekend and had a great time together. And my wife says today, lucky her, she gets to share her birthdays. So she's got some plans here today, so I want to go spend some time there before she runs out and does that. So What's the U.S. dollar doing here? Look at the rejection on the U.S. dollar. Just a nice rejection off of these highs here today. We're coming into this area here at 94.80 where I'm expecting price to start to stabilize a little bit. But again, if we do lose that 94.80 level for all you Forex traders out there, just bear in mind we could see it dip all the way back down to 94.30, well, which means the Euro USD will push higher. And I think we could be coming up to that 1680 level on Euro USD and challenge that. So just keep that in mind. Canadian dollar, by the way, if there's any U.S. CAD traders out there, this gets heavily affected by crude oil numbers as well too. So price of crude oil and U.S. dollar, they sort of bounce this price around a little bit. And you can see the breakout here is attributed to the U.S. dollar. As the crude oil numbers have been consolidating, this has been breaking out and expanding much, much higher. And that's just attributed to U.S. dollar. But as the U.S. dollar starts to consolidate and go sideways, if we have big days on crude oil, then this pair gets affected very, very quickly as well too. So should be coming up into some hit an area of resistance right in here. So I would expect a run lower on this. If we don't get that push higher in U.S. dollar, we should see this taper off a little bit. So we'll watch that. But nothing on. I don't have any bias on this opinion long term yet. And back to crude oil. Where are we here? So that number is just still sitting there sideways at 67.50 level. They're really gathering up positions right now. So I would expect the release to happen here any time now, and it should be a fairly significant release that's going to be coming. So, like I say again, you know, there's a lot of areas above and below market right now that are potential to get hit. So my bias, to be honest with you, is to come down to here with a short-term run up here and then a rejection. So I think as well too, like there's a heavy sentiment to the downside. And you look at this, how price came in here, set the high here, came in the next day, and sorry, the next week, I should say. So this was 3 weeks ago. This was 2 weeks ago. This was last week's trading in here. And you can see the start of the week. It started off trying to push up and take out the old highs from the week before. And all it ended up doing was creating a failure swing and a big bear run to the downside. And usually what they would do is come back up and at least retest these levels in here. Come on, give me this. They would at least usually come back up and retest these levels in here. Maybe not quite this high, but certainly the wick lows on this area, in these areas in here. And you can see the pressure to the downside. They came up and didn't even, they missed it by about 72.12, 71.57. Like they missed it by about 60, almost 70 cents. That's a pretty big area that they left open there. Ultimately, like I say, long term, I think they're coming back in and they're going to come back up and run these areas out. And they're just leaving that open. But some in the past few days, definitely heavy sentiment to the downside for crude oil. So again, that's why I think we're probably going to come in a little bit lower here, and it would have to. I mean, you got to think, like, you know, they come in and they say that these inventory numbers, you know, it's been such a surplus of inventory on the market for the past few years. So then they started to reduce production, and you saw the you know, this bull move ensue. And then now they're coming back in and saying, oh yeah, now we're going to start flooding the market again and gradually start raising production. And then, you know, the market starts to decline, but not before it sees this big pop up in here. So I definitely think they priced in, their pricing movements in, you know, before they happen. And then they release the numbers afterwards, and, you know, and we see these, you know, these moves. So it's kind of interesting when they do that. But anyway, that's kind of my thoughts just shortly on the crude oil markets. Let's just, while we're waiting for that, and it could take a little while to develop, they're going to work this price in here. I was hoping to see a real quick jump up in a reaction at these levels. We're not getting that yet. So We'll come back to that here in a second. Just want to talk about gold real quickly. You see gold is literally falling off the map here. Here's the next level that we'll be looking at, the 1200 level for gold. As that US dollar does push, we should see this continue to fall off, and has done it nicely here so far. The past couple of days, we sort of took some time getting through this old low in here, and price finally did that here nicely yesterday and pushed much lower. So again, I think we're probably going to see lower prices on gold as we do see the US dollar run higher. And this 1200 level in here would be something that would interest me for the short term. S&P making a nice bull move to the upside. They've done a great job. So it set the all-time high here back in January, and then since then it was almost like a black swan event. That just, I mean, the market eroded in in a week's time. And it took them a while to gather some strength to get back up there. But now we're starting to retest these highs in here. So here's the thing. It just took out these old previous highs from back in February. So here's the thing. If price doesn't get above this 2840 level, and it creates a failure swing, just be careful. They could be seeking lower prices. I was talking earlier about the potential move out of the stock markets because of these trade wars here that the U.S. is having with China, and how at the end of the day, all it's going to do is increase the cost of consumer goods across the board. The more these tariffs hit, and it's just going to do is just reflect in the pocket of the end consumer. And so what that could end up doing in turn, inversely affecting the stock market. And you could see some of these companies' stock prices take a hit. And if that happens, you could see a flight from the stock market into the bond market. And with that, things like the S&P, obviously, the Dow Jones, the NASDAQ, they could all be affected by that. Not going to happen tomorrow. Not going to happen in the next couple of months, but come September, October, November, that's when we could start to see things happen. And so just keep that in mind. When price starts creeping up here to this 2840 level, I'm going to have all three of the major indices side by side here, and I'm going to be looking to see which one creates that failure swing and fails to get above that. And that's going to be the catalyst. All the other moves are going to be false moves higher, and we're probably going to see a big drop lower. So that's if that happens. That's a big if. But that's just kind of what my thoughts were on S&P. So not a whole lot I want to talk about on commodities today. Nat gas still making that push down. I was hoping for we would see support in these areas in here, but so far not yet. It may want to make a push down and grab some of the liquidity underneath these levels in here. So just keep that in mind if you are a nat gas trader. Not looking to get long yet. Bitcoin finally closing this gap in here. I was waiting for this thing to close, and it's finally done that. So we'll wait and see what they want to do. I'm not turning my tide yet on Bitcoin. I think they're still going to be looking for lower prices. I think this is, again, just a false move higher to close this gap here, and I think they're probably going to roll this thing back over again. That's my thoughts on cryptos anyway. I've definitely cooled off my opinion on them lately. Not necessarily that I think they're going to go higher immediately or anything, but they're just really taking a very, very long time to get these lows taken out here. So back to crude oil. Not much going on in crude oil still. It's just sort of sitting there. Price came down, ripped down, took out the old low here by about a pip, and so far it's slowly making its way higher. Just taking the liquidity out from the London session here. And so far, doesn't want to go higher yet, but I would expect this area right in here to offer some level of support. I just keep that in mind. I'm looking for this to go lower long term. Like the end of the week, I believe we'll be trading down, or we'll have taken at least, we'll have taken this level out. But I think short term, I think we could pop up and run these levels in here. So that's sort of what I'm looking for, guys. Anyway, it's kind of like watching paint dry. I apologize. I was hoping for a better inventory release here, and it may be delayed. There is Fed Chair Powell testified earlier, about half an hour ago, and that could be why we're seeing a drop in the U.S. dollar. Crude oil numbers is the last major market news event until we get to Australian dollar this evening, 9:30 p.m. There's employment change and unemployment rates on the Australian dollar. So if you are an Aussie trader, we could see some action, and hopefully this area in here, I kind of like that. There's a potential to see price run up into. We'll see what it does when it gets into there, but we may see some resistance at that level. Somewhere right in around there. So keep an eye on the Australian dollar, guys. If we see price unwilling to go above there, we could see another push lower. Especially if we see that ultimate run higher for the rest of the week on the U.S. dollar. So prices are really starting to come into a nice level here. So I'm going to be watching things Forex related for the rest of the week here. Now keep in mind too, we could have a Wednesday reversal. That's another, that's something else that could happen. So Monday starts out, creates the high on Tuesday. Wednesday creates the low. You can see here they just took out the lows from last week, and then from Thursday, Friday on, we could see a reversal. So just keep that in mind, guys. That could be a profile that could play out, and that's why I say if we lose these levels in here and we start to re-challenge and get higher than Monday's open, that's the catalyst. If we lose that Monday open, which is right in here on the U.S. dollar, then just be very, very careful. That's Monday's open right there. Just be careful, guys. I'll just do this whole candle. That this area in here, if that gets broken to the downside, then we could see a Wednesday reversal pattern forming, and we could put in lower prices for the week. So just keep that in mind. But yeah, that's really about all I got to say. I hope you guys have a great Wednesday. I'm sorry that I know for all you S&P traders who love to come in and check out Dave's sessions, I'm not a big S&P trader, so I was hoping that I could get a trade in on crude oil here, but so far the numbers really haven't been doing a whole bunch. And Dave will be back next week for everybody who loves his sessions. He's just on holidays right now, so I'll be in on Friday as well too, taking over his New York trading session as well. But if price comes down, if price comes down to here on S&P, I would probably be inclined to buy this. I would hope for something like this to happen. But you can see not a whole lot happening here today. Just really consolidated, tight trading ranges in here. We may even see a bounce at current levels. This old area in here could be offering some resistance. The highs of these old Monday in here, that could offer an area of resistance. So Monday opens, comes down, Tuesday creates the low, rejects off of that low, comes up, Wednesday trades softer, and just retests these old highs in here, and then we could just start to see a bounce right away at these levels. So. But it's just nothing that I'm comfortable with right now taking a trade on. If we do see price come down a little bit lower, I would be looking for either here or here to offer some area of support. I would elect not to put in a trade right now just because they could gap down into here and take that out. So just bear that in mind if you are an S&P trader and you are looking at going long and you are thinking about taking a trade like that. You definitely want to have your stop under here. I don't think you need to go much lower than this. 27.90. That would probably be an area, if we lost this area in here, that you could put your stop in at. So because if this area gets lost right here, then price will probably want to come all the way back down to here, and maybe even back down in here. That'd be a pretty deep retracement, but definitely something that they could want to do. So just keep that in mind. But so far, price is reacting nicely in here. I mean, I might even be inclined to take a buy there, but I'll leave that up to you. I'm not a big S&P trader, so I don't want to get too far ahead of myself on this market. Crude still sitting sideways. Okay. Anyway, guys, I'm going to leave you here now. I'll be back for London Open tomorrow morning at about anywhere between 12 a.m. New York time to 1 a.m. New York time. I'll jump on, do a session. We'll find out what Wednesday's profile is going to do here, and then we'll trade it accordingly. So with that, I hope you guys have a great Wednesday. And if you have any questions, just fire them over. You guys know how to get a hold of me. So I appreciate your time today. We'll take care. We'll talk to you tomorrow.